We are anonymous. Those who live in the shadows of the digital world, those who report and analyze wars, conflicts, and secrets that empires try to hide. We belong to no nation. We serve no political interest. We serve only the truth, no matter how deeply it is buried, no matter how much it terrifies the powerful. We do not take sides. We expose what happens on the battlefield. And today, you will hear what Russia fears most, the story of how Ukraine has turned the battlefield, and even Russian territory itself into a storm of precision, intelligence, and defiance. Ukraine's message to Moscow is no longer diplomatic. It is delivered in the language Russia understands best: explosions, black smoke, and burning fuel. Across occupied Crimea in Bashkortostan and deep inside Russian territory, the flames from destroyed oil depots and refineries speak louder than any speech. Ukraine is not just defending. They are striking back, far and deep, with F-16S drones and long-range missiles that have turned Russia's infrastructure into a target zone. President Zelensky has confirmed this new phase. He said Ukraine's long-range offensive operations are now tightly coordinated across every level of military command, discussing the use of missiles, drones production, launch systems, and crew training. He emphasized that the more effective long-range warfare becomes, the closer Ukraine gets to peace. Behind those words lies a massive transformation. Western technology, domestic production, and intelligence sharing merging into a single synchronized retaliation machine. Reports confirm that over 80% of Ukraine's aerial missions are now carried out by F-16S, an astonishing number given they were introduced less than a year ago. These fighters not only defend the skies, but strike ground targets with precision once thought impossible. Each mission is supported by European funding, American satellite intelligence, and NATO-linked data systems that map out Russia's air defense zones in real time. But that is only the surface. Behind every successful strike is an invisible network: engineers, hackers, drone pilots, and special forces working together to make the impossible happen. One of the most powerful attacks occurred at the Feodosia oil depot in occupied Crimea. After the first strike, Russian forces rushed to extinguish the flames, pouring in fresh fuel to compensate for losses. Ukraine watched, waited, and struck again. The second explosion turned the remaining area into a molten inferno, wiping out thousands of tons of oil and gasoline. Satellite images confirmed the depot's total destruction. This was not an isolated event. Ukrainian Special Operations Forces are now targeting radar stations, air defense systems, and electrical substations, cutting off the energy lifelines that sustain the occupying forces in Crimea. One operation struck the so-called energybridge that connected Russia's power grid to Crimea. When it went down, the entire peninsula plunged into an energy crisis. But perhaps the most shocking strike was the long-range drone attack on the Bashkortostan refinery, 1,400 kilometers from Ukraine's border. That is deeper than Moscow's own safety zone, far beyond the reach of any weapon Ukraine was once believed to possess. The refinery's most critical distillation tower, marked ILO AVT-6 in Russian technical manuals, was completely destroyed. It handled millions of tons of oil per year. Now it is gone. A symbolic and strategic blow, proving that Ukraine can strike anywhere, anytime. While Ukrainian forces carry out these precision campaigns, resistance groups, partisans, are operating within Russia itself. In the Rostov region, they sabotaged railways, disrupting military logistics. These are not random acts. They are coordinated local operations, striking from inside Putin's fortress. Each explosion on Russian soil forces civilians to ask if they can reach us here. Are we truly safe? The Financial Times revealed that the United States is providing Ukraine with real-time intelligence about the positions of Russian air defense systems protecting key infrastructure. This cooperation allows Ukrainian drones and missiles to slip through gaps in Russia's air defense umbrella, making strikes deadlier and more precise. If true, it means that the supposedly invincible energy hubs of Russia are now exposed, located, and targeted. with coordinates transmitted directly from American satellites. Meanwhile, Russia continues to attack Ukraine's railway network. Since August, Ukraine has reported over 300 strikes on its national rail system, especially targeting locomotives. Russia hopes to cripple Ukrainian logistics, but that strategy has forced Ukraine to innovate, building protective tunnels, moving supplies underground, and reinforcing key nodes. Each Russian strike teaches Ukraine how to adapt faster than the Kremlin can think. In the energy sector, Russia's missile attacks on Ukraine's gas facilities were designed to freeze the country during winter, but the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development intervened, funding emergency gas imports to ensure no Ukrainian city would lose heat or power. Europe, often criticized for being slow, is now showing unprecedented unity. As Zelensky said, Europe is supporting Ukraine 1,000%. European military aid continues to rise. Germany's Rheinmetall Group will provide Skyranger 35 systems, anti-aircraft cannons mounted on Leopard tank chassis. Ironically, they are funded by frozen Russian assets. In other words, Russia is indirectly paying for Ukraine's defense. The United Kingdom has gone even further, delivering hundreds of air defense missiles 5 months ahead of schedule, breaking Europe's usual bureaucratic delay. Britain also signed agreements to expand artillery production both domestically and inside Ukraine, turning Ukraine into one of Europe's leading ammunition producers. Meanwhile, the Netherlands has deepened cooperation with Kyiv, launching factories to produce combat drones and anti-drone systems worth €310 million. The factories are located in the Netherlands to avoid airstrike risks, while maintaining full production capacity. The partnership carries deep symbolic meaning, as Dutch citizens were among those killed in the MH17 tragedy in 2014, when a Russian missile shot down a civilian airliner. Now the Netherlands is returning that pain with strength, helping Ukraine reclaim the skies. Europe's Pearl program has also expanded. 7 more countries joining to pool funds for buying American weapons and fast-tracking deliveries to Ukraine. This marks a silent revolution in European defense. For the first time, Europe is acting as a unified arms supplier, not just a diplomatic coalition. Ukraine's F-16s, now performing 80% of all air missions, stand as the symbol of that transformation. In just months, the Ukrainian Air Force evolved from aging Soviet aircraft into one of the most modern air fleets in Europe. And they are not just intercepting missiles, they are striking command centers, radar stations, and refineries deep inside Russia. Yet the air war remains fierce. Russia's air defenses are thick and deadly, forcing Ukraine to fight with agility, stealth, and perfect coordination. Across Europe, the shadow war is spreading. The Czech army reported unidentified drones flying over top-secret military bases, likely Russian reconnaissance. Details remain classified, but it is a stark reminder that Russia's hybrid warfare, espionage, propaganda, sabotage, is unfolding across the continent. Nations no longer see these as isolated incidents, but as extensions of the same battlefield. Ukraine, however, continues to innovate. On October 10th, Ukrainian air defenses shot down a Russian Kh-69 cruise missile using a modified Hydra 70mm laser-guided rocket, cheap, precise, and revolutionary. A low-cost weapon destroying a $1 million missile. That is a turning point. Now it is not just David versus Goliath. It is David with technology. Inside Russia, recruitment numbers tell a darker story. In 4 regions, bonuses for signing the new military contracts have dropped from 3.1 million to just 800,000 rubles. Why? Because the Kremlin shifted recruitment costs from the federal budget to local governments, and poor regions cannot afford it. The result? Fewer recruits, lower morale, and spreading dissatisfaction. Even propaganda can no longer hide the economic exhaustion creeping through the system. Romania declared it would defend Moldova if Russia attacks, a strong statement, considering Russian troops still occupy Moldova's Transnistria region. But it also exposes moral hesitation. Why wait for Moldova to be attacked when Ukraine is bombed daily? The words are welcome, but for many they come too late. Russia's hybrid war uses more than missiles. It uses information. In Poland, Russian propaganda floods social media, pushing narratives that the US and EU provoked the war. These psychological campaigns aim to divide allies, make Poles doubt Ukraine, and fracture the unity the Kremlin fears most. Sadly, it is working in some areas. Poland, once Ukraine's strongest ally, now faces domestic political divisions fueled by Russian disinformation. A reminder that today's wars are fought not only on the ground, but in the mind. Amid all this chaos, one story rises above all. Ukrainian journalist Victoriaroshina, kidnapped, tortured, and killed in occupied territory, was posthumously awarded the International Freedom of the Press Hero Award. Her only crime was telling the truth. She documented what Russia did to civilians, and for that they murdered her. But her voice echoes across the world, a symbol of why Ukraine truly fights, not just for land, but for the right to speak, to live, to be human. And finally, amid the darkness, a small light. Ukraine rescued 23 more children from occupied zones, bringing them home. Every child returned is a quiet victory over the shadows. Every missile launched, every refinery destroyed, every Russian lie exposed, all led to one thing: reclaiming life, innocence, and humanity. We are anonymous. We are not soldiers, but we stand with those who fight for truth. We are not a government, but we expose those who abuse power. And to you, the one watching this video, remember, silence helps the oppressor, not the oppressed. Share the truth. Support those who stand. And never forget, Ukraine matters. Freedom matters. Humanity matters.